Hi viewers! So I'm Trinity and I'm going to teach you how to make string art. Starting off, when making string art, you're going to want your supplies. So I have 3 rolls of yarn. They're 3 different colors. They're pretty easy to find, so those are an easy option. I also have 3 little spools of string, of really thin string. You can use either big yarn or thin spools, it doesn't really matter. Kind of just depends on what you want to do and what you're looking for. We also have some needles. These are different sizes, which can be very helpful at times. They also have different size openings in the back. So if you're having trouble fitting the yarn through the opening in the needle, you can just get one with a bigger opening. And then a little needle picker. And that's always a good tool to have. We also have some pin cushions, or corsage pins. Corsage pins are very pointy and sometimes you don't even use them. It's mostly optional. And last but not least, a pin cushion. And pin cushions can be very useful in case you just want to stop and take a break, because string art can sometimes take a while and the project isn't something you can usually get done in 5 minutes. So a pin cushion is always something good to have. Now, when starting out, you're going to want to use some type of paper that's a little tougher than regular paper, because we're working with needles. So when working with needles, it can be really easy to tear regular printer paper. So I went out and got some cardstock paper because, as I said, it's a lot tougher and it's just a lot easier to work with. So without further ado, I have already inserted the needle through the little opening for the needle that I'm going to use, and I've already started practicing on this little sheet. Now, when you start making a string art design, you're going to want to take a pencil and just sketch a little design of what you want to make onto the paper. Not hard or anything. I would recommend that you don't use instruments with ink, because the ink can sometimes, if it's heavy enough, it can bleed through the paper, and sometimes you can see it through your thread, which isn't a good thing. Now, to move on to the actual stitching part, when you are stitching, you'll want to start by inserting the needle through the back, because when you finish the project and you want to cut your yarn, you will take the spool, because your yarn is still going to be attached to your spool, because you can always just keep running it out and you don't have to stop and tie knots and go through the whole process of putting the string back through the needle opening. So I like to just keep it on the spool. But when you are finished with your project, you're going to take your spool and run it out a little, and then get some scissors and give it a little snipperoonie, and then you can easily just tie a little knot and on the side with the pencil sketchings, and on the back, or on the other side, you won't be able to see anything and it'll just be your string, which is always a good thing to have. Now, I've already started practicing on this page, and I'm just going to keep going through that. So I'm going to insert my needle through the back, and I know where I want to place my needle. Sometimes it can be a little difficult to be watching the back, and kind of staying with the lines on the front with your sketching. So I'm going to use the light, which is very helpful, because even with light pencil marks, you can still see the markings through the light. So I see that my design goes this way, So I'm going to insert the needle right here. Make sure not to poke yourself with the needle. And I'm going to pull it through. And I'm just going to keep pulling. And then I can flip it over. And since I'm starting from the same little, I'm making a triangle, so I'm starting from the same little point right here, I'm gonna just keep going through there until I am satisfied and would like a new place to start. And I'm just gonna keep going until I've completed my project. And as a means for saving time, I have already finished a project, which in the end came out like this. So I used both types of yarn. The thin yarn was a lot easier to use than the big yarn because it was really difficult to get the big yarn through that little opening on the needle. But this little project here took me about 2 hours, and I also drew in some polka dots and some stars just to spice it up a little. But the activity is very calming, and you can make it fun, which I thought was really cool. And that is how you make string art. So go off into the world and make beautiful string art. Thank you.